This is the Effing Business Podcast. You ask the questions, we answer.
I think you first start with success. I think you first start with success,
right,
and measure your own company,
correct,
your own abilities, right? And then when you get to a point where you're a significant player, okay, and you're up against very few others, I don't think measure your success specifically against them, but more about what the market dictates and what they're doing and what you're doing in response to it. Okay,
so that's competition-wise, but I think like this.
Correct, it is.
And getting to like what motivates a person originally and what motivates and then every day in and out from there, from day one of the starting company to day 1,000. It may start as, hey, Joe Schmo motivated me to get off my ass because he was a nothing like me, and now I've gotten to this point. And at day 1,000, you've passed Joe Schmo, and now it's Joe Mo, and Joe Mo, and so on and so forth. You find different people to sort of strive forward. But the best person to be critical of yourself is yourself.
I'm a very big believer to be petty about motivation. Find the pettiest things that will motivate you. Motivation is challenging. Like I was watching something about Kobe the other day. Okay, I was in an interview with Allen Iverson, and he was talking about like Kobe Bryant, and like what I think Kenyon Martin said something stupid to him at the foul line, and Kobe dropped an incredible amount of points after that, right? Like just like leave him alone. Like Allen Iverson, who was teammates with Kenyon Martin's like, just leave him alone. No, like you just poked him. Like he was fine. He wasn't impacting the game.
You see that from Dwayne Wade. Like remember he got hit in the eye that one time.
Yeah. So I think there's value in finding the most petty things to motivate you on a day-to-day basis. Like motivation needs to be consistent. If your motivation is high and low, your product
will be high and low.
Exactly. If you can find even the dumbest things to be motivated by, so be it. But as long as that motivation stays high, then your product and your everything that flows from that motivation will be consistent as well.
Yeah, it's hard to choose one thing at year one that motivates you at year 5, right? Like you're either past it or you've almost like forgotten it. Like it doesn't have the same motivating factor.
That's a great point.
It's like you have to have mini arguments with yourself, like, yo, I could be better than that guy, or I could be better than myself. I could be better.
Right. So like in high school,
and so on.
In high school, you're probably playing for a scholarship.
Right.
Right. That motivates you. That wakes you up at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m.
Right. I want to be a 5-star
right.
to get
exactly. You want to be recruited.
Exactly.
Right. And then you make it there, and then you're like, wait, my next level of motivation is I want to play for a paycheck every week. And then you actually get there. You're drafted or you're selected. You're on the team, and now you're there, but you have to stay there.
Yeah. You see
right?
the 5-star recruits all the time. They're highly touted. They're big-time recruits, so on and so forth. They're going to be great. And they get into the college football, and they just drop because they have too much of a self-importance. A guy, for example, DJ Johnson, had the most scholarships in the nation last 2 years ago. Went to Miami, couldn't get on the field. Got beat out by a 3-star defensive line.
And he was a 5-star.
He was a 5-star. Most scholarships in the nation. He had this huge head. He thought he was way too important. He thought he'd show up.
Yo, if DJ hears this, he's coming for you.
He's gonna get the job, and he's basically set. And it doesn't work like that. They got him to the field, they got him to the practice field, and now you got to beat out the next guy.
So motivation.
The guy who had a 3-star said, "Y'all didn't give me my other 2 stars that I deserve," and now he's an All-American.
Motivation will create staying power.
Correct.
My motivation has always been growth, and
right, and like you can classify more as more money, more influence. It's just more of everything, because I think with more money, more people know you. More people know you, more money you make. If I have more of everything, then I'll get what I want. What that is, I really don't even know. There's no end goal to this. If I want more, I just want more of it. It used to be like you can retire, make $1 million, you retire. It's not so true anymore. But so then you set $1 million. Now what? What do you do? Like you see that the hardest thing for like people is like you get to the pinnacle and was like, wow, the journey was way more fun and way more exciting, and I got here. Now what? It's funny because I don't think exactly that way. Like the guy who climbs Mount Everest, right? He's climbed other mountains, but now you climb the highest mountain in the world. What are you gonna climb now?
I always think like
that's gonna get your jollies and make you feel better about yourself.
I always think when the players are walking to the podium, like, and the confetti's coming down, exactly, and they're handing out the Super Bowl trophy. I always think to myself, like, how long from now are they gonna feel like, wow, we worked really hard, we put in a lot of time, we played more games than any other team except for the team we just beat in the Super Bowl. And in a couple of months, we'll have a little vacation.
Back to the hardest thing.
I got to start all over again. And my thought is like, I always wonder if they feel like the juice was worth the squeeze. I always wonder, like,
was the journey worth it?
Correct. Like that's they didn't make significantly more money winning the Super Bowl.
Right. Like that's why I love the guy who retires right after. Right. Like his whole career
he was chasing
the journey. He was chasing it.
Like Jerome Bettis.
Correct. Jerome Bettis, and then sets off into the sunset. Like Ray Lewis got it before, but like that's the best way to go, right? Like they want to retire on their own accord, not retire like I broke my leg and I can't play anymore, injury, so on and so forth. Like I got my championship, and they ride into the sunset on their decision, right? Like I think that's like the best way to go. But with business, if you set that mile marker, right, you can set mini goals, but you have to understand those mini goals have to be part of a macro huge plan of lifetime achievement. If I set a goal in 10 years, I want Bulldog Adjusters and Bulldog Marketing to be two national companies, then okay.
What happens when you get there?
Once I get to become a national company, what do I do?
You have to move your yardstick. You have to reassess.
You can move your
goals.
yardstick, but it's hard for people because people set them. They work really hard to get to them. They get to them, and they're drained.
Yeah, but I find for us, specifically me, that I don't like my long-term goal is always my long-term idea of success is always growing, right? I mean, it's always been to be bigger and bigger and bigger, but it's.
Is that because of, don't take this the wrong way, underestimating?
No, actually, quite the opposite. I've actually been surprised in how specific I was able to pinpoint what we had to do to at least get to this point. Now, it was hard to do that.
No, but if you knew how many, let's say, for example, claims we do now, and I told you 5-6 years ago how many claims are being signed on a monthly basis on average,
Right.
and the fees that are coming out of it, you would have told me what the
When?
number hit to 5 years ago. You would have told me like that's a great number.
Correct, but the moment
But
that
you also-
happens,
okay,
moment that
hold on,
happens,
time.
it's time
But
for
also,
the next.
right. But that's my point, right?
What I'm saying though is, as we grow, the mile marker
Correct, it
that I
grows.
used for
But
success
that's-
gets pushed further out.
That's because I think both of us innately want more. We were at 50, then we were at 100, then we were at 150, then we were at 200, so on and so forth. We just want more. There is no finite end. Most people put finite goals down. Right? For example, Emmitt Smith.
The running back?
No, before he was even in college, yeah, Emmitt Smith, the running back. I think when he was a little kid, he wrote down all these goals, and they were like super lofty. Like, I'm going to be the leading,
very specific.
Correct. I'm going to be the leading rusher in the nation. I'm going to be the leading. Like, he would set them super, super high, like almost unattainable. And in his eyes, he said, like, if I fall short of this, I'm still probably going to do everything I want to do in life. But most people, in my opinion, set obtainable goals because they don't want to be unrealistic with themselves, right? They don't want
to fail for themselves.
Correct. They think failure is ultimate failure. Do you get what I'm saying? If I fail, then nothing was worth it, right? Like we actually went through that a lot. A lot of our ideas of getting business and so on and so forth, they would fail in our eyes, and we've talked about this before. They would fail in our eyes because we thought it was going to hit a home run, but instead it was like a double, right? So it was a failure.
Or a bunt single.
Whatever, but it was
Or a strikeout.
everything we thought was going to be a home run.
Right.
Was there a thought?
Correct.
This is gonna be huge?
We didn't think we have to put a bunch of singles together. We thought we have to figure this out
Right, so we
by
set
hitting
the-
a home run,
right,
and then we're
but
set.
because we set the bar so high as home run, if on everything was a failure,
Correct.
and that's what happens.
Because our mindset going in
people
was
set
wrong.
they set low limits, low goals for themselves. Of I want to get my company to $1 million company. Okay, you get themselves to $1 million company, or they fail, they're at $750,000 company. They're a $750,000 company, small company for themselves, so on and so forth. They're making a living. Do they see themselves as a failure? Do they accept it? And if they set themselves up for, I want to be a $10 million company, would they be making $5 million
Yeah,
now?
but what about this is also how they deal with what they perceive as failure? Could it be that some of these people that you're referring to are failing and they think failure is final? I failed here. I'm done. Let's throw this out. Let me
Correct.
go on to the next thing. As opposed to saying, okay,
they take failure as a finite thing. I fail. I'm not good at this.
Next.
Yeah, correct.
As opposed to saying, okay, I have to rethink my approach.
Correct.
And I think that's the thing
That's
that without realizing it, we were very good at, where we constantly rethought and still do what we're doing.
We have two things going for us. One, we had nothing to fall back on. We were two
Right. That's true.
young, dumb idiots.
Were.
Well, for one of us at least.
Well, that's weird to talk about yourself like that.
So, but we had nothing to fall back on. And innately, we pushed each other to get an answer.
Yes.
Maybe if we were a single company, meaning you were by yourself and I was by myself, we would have given up also. That may have happened.
So is there value then in that coach or in that somebody you can
I
go
think
to
every single person who owns a company should have someone to talk to.
if they don't have a partner?
Whether they pay them as a business coach,
Right.
Even if it's just like a buddy talk to, sometimes even if they're not even in business, because you get trapped in your own thoughts, right? You get completely.
You're your own echo chamber.
You're your own echo chamber, and you're just
You box yourself in,
correct.
and I'm out. I'm done. I got nothing. As opposed to thinking, opening the doors.
Opening or just like giving a reprieve when you're completely in it constantly. Like I'm not for like, hey, go take weeks and months of vacation, but stepping back for a couple days from a situation and just clearing your head, because you start to forget like other little misfires and things like that, and you're like, oh, what if I did this and that, and so on and so forth. If you clear everything and you have a clear plate, and you can go back to the table and say, hey, let's look at this again. Having someone like Aaron as a partner, and having a partner in general, was and still is very crucial because of that echo chamber. If I was in my own head, or what?
This is being recorded, right? Okay, proceed. You guys,
because I gave him a compliment. He doesn't get them
you guys
from
Vince.
From anyone.
From Vince.